Hi, I'm at Manitoba Ag Days with Brunel Sabourin, owner of Antara Agronomy Services and an agronomist who just finished a presentation here on benchmarking agronomy. Brunel, what are one of the more challenging things that you're seeing among your growers when it comes to your peer group?
This year it's profitability.
Okay.
It's with the prices of commodities versus the prices of inputs are very expensive inputs in relation to the price of commodities. So farmers are looking for ways to be more efficient, not necessarily do more with less, but make sure that they're putting on enough that they can maximize their profitability without overspending or over-applying.
We talked to several factors that are in a farmer's control and some that aren't in a grower's control. Are there some that stand out more than others?
Well, in terms of out of a farmer's control, one of the things that causes the biggest variabilities and makes it very hard to plan a growing season is the weather. So often farmer starts off with the best intentions and the best laid out plan A, but then Mother Nature has a nasty habit of changing the game necessarily, which causes us to have to readjust, come up with a plan A, B, C, D as a contingency to try to still maintain the profitability and the yields that we want.
Farmers have access to more technology than ever, it seems. How well are they applying it to their farm practices that you're seeing? Are they getting better at it, or is there still a bit of a challenge to adopt some of these things?
Well, there's always a challenge to adopt these things because there's always a better way of doing things. Now, our company puts a lot of emphasis on on-farm research and doing better and finding solutions or answers to these. So we tend to work with the top producers in our area.
Okay.
These are the ones that are on the front edge that are always looking for a new, better way of doing things. They're the early adopters that are ahead of everybody else. So
you showed a few different types of data sources that farmers can use to kind of make better decisions, whether they're agronomic or crop choices, that sort of thing. Can you talk a little bit about those? I think one of them was LiDAR, NDVI, and even historical photographs to a certain degree.
For sure. So the whole idea is how do we address field variability? So number one, the technologies that we have in the equipment these days, such as yield mapping, are game changing. There is a challenge to collecting quality maps, but if we can collect quality maps, it helps us quantify what the variability is and where the problem areas are. So it used to be that we'd look at a field and think it was pretty even, but now we know that there can be some major differences. So once we know where the differences are and what they are, now it helps us make better decisions in terms of can we fix these problems. Some problems like soil salinity or soil pH aren't as easy to fix, but there could be areas of the field that we're under applying fertilizer, because when we're doing a fertilizer application across the field, generally we're putting on enough things like nitrogen that the crop won't lodge. We want to minimize the amount of lodging. But that means that there's other areas of the field that may not have that natural fertility that could use a little bit more fertilizer.
Right.
So there's all sorts of new technologies in terms of RTK mapping, elevation, electrical conductivity. There's all sorts of new radar technologies coming on to try to measure the variability in soil moisture. Talking to somebody across my booth yesterday, protein mapping is another one that a lot of farmers maybe don't have on their radar, but you could look at a part of the field and say, okay, this is a very high yielding field, so we've maximized production in there.
Okay.
But the protein map shows that we probably ran short of nitrogen to maximize the yield. So we could have gotten even more out of those areas had we known this ahead of time. So it's all about incorporating these layers and trying to use them to be able to make better management decisions that we can, used to be that these fields were all farmed in 10, 20, 30 acre parcels.
Mm-hmm.
And they were probably split up that way because of underlying things like drainage issues or salinity. But now we can go back, we can still have the efficacy of farming today, where we're farming these bigger pieces of land with bigger equipment, but we can treat acre by acre almost as its own field. So we can custom tailor the fertility or seed, all sorts of inputs to be able to get more efficiency out of it and be more profitable at the end of the day.
Right, yeah, be more selective in your practices and be more targeted, I guess, too.
Exactly.
Part of it, yeah. Brunel, is there anything you wanted to add from your presentation that I didn't ask you about today you felt was important?
I guess maybe I would just want to reinforce the message. It's
okay.
With better data, we can make better decisions, and better decisions are what help us sleep better at night when we know that we're making the right choice. When we don't have all the information, that's where we tend to have higher levels of stress because we don't know if we are doing the right thing. Are we putting or not putting on enough fertilizer? Is my crop even going to make it at the end of the season? So These are all very stressful things that keep farmers and agronomists up at night.
Right. Yeah, and I should congratulate you, Brunel. Yesterday at Manitoba Ag Days, you were awarded first prize in Agribusiness Solutions for Antara Agronomy. How did you feel about it? I believe you were a winner last year as well for something different, but you brought something new this year. What was that?
So last year we submitted our Insights Agronomy Benchmarking Program.
Okay.
So it's a program that we look at small data before big data. So we're doing benchmarking, but we tend to focus it in on neighboring farms. So groups of 6 to 10 farms that we can then compare apples to apples as best we can. But even that had limitations. So for the new year, we've resubmitted with our 2.0. Last year we came in runner-up.
Okay.
So now we've added a private weather network to help gather better data to make better sense of the information that we are collecting. So it's an enhanced version of what we already had.
Okay.
We've also added crop budgeting, where now we will assign a generic price to a ton of urea or a jug of chemical, so that we can start taking that information and comparing more on the profitability side of things. How are your yields in relation to your crop input spends? How does that translate into everything at the end of the day? Especially we can throw weather in there. It's all about collecting better data and getting better answers.
Right.